Hello guys and welcome to another video. In this one I'll show you how actually really good racing looks like, and just for that we need Deep Forest Raceway in Group 3, one of the best combinations that we had in maybe ever. So I looked at the leaderboard, so it was kind of, let's say, very competitive. I can say that it was very competitive. So at 24.2 was the fastest time in the world. Somehow I'm in 27th place in the world right now, and you can see how close these times are. So most of the top drivers in the world actually did this one. So I will quickly jump into the first race that I've done, and I'll show you the main advantages of disadvantages of, let's say, using different cars. And as you can see clearly, it's very easy to see that most of the guys out here are using 4GTs, and there is a very good reason why. As you can see, I got this Supra right in front of me. It was Gino. I know he's really, he is a really quick driver. He's driving the Supra. I know he really likes this car, but yeah, Supra was always famous that it had like super crazy top speed, but apparently on this track you need even more than that. You just need a lot more top speed than the Supra has, which only one car or maybe even two cars have. So it's the 4GT. 4GT is incredibly quick car in the straight line. It's a little understeery. It's everything else. I would say it's not a very optimal car around other circuits, but here it was super quick. I didn't even have to try that hard. I was just going for moves. I wasn't even trying to go for a move. So Gino was going defensive. I really had no intention of going that, not even touching him here, but unfortunately it did happen like twice. But yeah, I'm kind of sorry about that. It wasn't intentional. I just wanted to give him a little push so we can of course move on and catch the guys in front. But as you can see, Supra is really quick now in the middle section because my 4GT is a little understeery. Like, it's not very great in the acceleration. It's a pretty decent car around this track because it has a lot of straights. Otherwise, on other circuits, or rather, let's say I would call it technical circuits, it's not really that great. But just to give you an example of how overtaking looks like around here if you're not using the 4GT. Or I'm using the 4GT, he's not. I used a bit of slipstream, and just for the rest of the straight I didn't even need it. So this car was so quick on the straight line that I really didn't even need to do much. I just carried on, basically going in the straight line and overtaking this guy. So it was as simple as it gets. I know this lobby was super competitive, but if you're watching this, or if you're watching these two guys, I was always watching these two guys, and we'll go back to this a little bit later. So we will keep an eye on these two guys. I just wanted to say that if you're not running 4GT, you're not gonna be competitive. So either way, you need to go with the 4GT to actually get something out of this race. And as you can see, the guys up in front, they were fighting all the time, and we were actually doing the whole evening. I think I've done about 3 hours on the stream, around 6, maybe even 7, I think it was 6 races in a row, and these guys were insanely quick up in front. I don't know the Hungarian, where is he picking up all of that speed, but it's absolutely incredible. So I just decided to do something else. If I stayed behind them, no, I don't think anything good would happen. So I just decided to give myself a little bit of that kind of clean air. Maybe if I can, let's say, be lucky in this situation, get some clean air, get some, luck, because eventually they will start fighting up in front, and maybe I can just try to get something out of that. But unfortunately, that did not happen. What actually happened was quite the opposite. I lost the place. So I lost one place, and then I had the Spaniard guy. Yeah, he was just behind me, and he was really quick in the situation. It was really a tough decision because I actually got a couple of laps in clean air, but I wasn't getting the slipstream. Why? Once again, I said I tried to do something different. Was it a good idea? Probably not, because here you need the slipstream to be quick. So you need to kind of push the guy in front to break that air, just to move that air in front of you, so you can get that slipstream, and you can maybe give him a little tap from behind, so you can both get away from the carnage behind. And yes, as usual, if you start in the middle of the pack, it's gonna be quite a mess. Let's be honest, it always is, but here everyone's trying to go for a place or two, and it's just it becomes a mess. But luckily I had the Spaniard who was actually thinking about it, what is going to happen after like a couple of corners, and he wasn't just going for moves every single time. But I was really slow in the next lap, so he just decided to go for that move. So as I was explaining before, if you give the guy a little tap up in front, not like this little tap, a little tap on the back, you both will get the benefit of that slipstream and move away from the rest of the field, which is always the goal here. So use the slipstream to your advantage. Here, I think I was a little bit too slow. I mean, let's be honest, I did some mistakes, and he had every right to go for that move, and he had every right to just go for it, and he did exactly what he did. But then again, you never really know if you're slow or you just made one little mistake, or if the guy in front of you is, I don't know, made a little mistake or not. It really depends on how close can you stay and how consistent can you get on the straights and stay in that slipstream. Because if you look at the leaderboards once again, the gap was about 2/10 in the first 20. So I think I was 3/10 from the actual world record, and I was 27th in the world. So you can just imagine how competitive this thing is. So 3/10 is nothing, and I think this slipstream is giving you more than that. So if you can stay with someone like that, even if he's faster than you, you will eventually get that place. You will eventually be competitive and be in that spot for might even be a win. So I got really close, and he did this amazing strategy, what I always do. I park it on the apex. So he did here. I'm not even mad about it, because he parked the car on the apex and I just couldn't do much. Faked his way onto the let's say he faked it, but he faked the pit entry, and yeah, I finished in P5. I wasn't even mad about it. It was just one of those races where, okay, I done a little mistake, I went into the pits too early, and it was completely my bad. So for the next one, I really tried to truly understand what's going on around the track and really read the situation. So I had Gino once again in front of me, but he decided to pick up the car that everyone uses, and later on in the chat he said, this is not a really good car, I don't really like the feeling, it's kind of strange, it's understeery, but at the same time it's quick. So yeah, it is pretty understeery, it does not turn well, but it's really quick on the straight. So if you have a tough time with this, I think just releasing the brakes after a couple of turns, or just in this section, just taking it really, really easy, it's gonna benefit. You're definitely gonna benefit from actually releasing the brakes and letting this car coast. Because in most of these corners, if you just stay on the brakes like I always do here, I just stay and trail brake, is not gonna be really beneficial for your driving, or even in this situation the car will eventually understeer. So you need to brake in the straight line and just turn in with this car. And yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I tried to do. But then I saw the leader, he went for that early pit stop, and I thought, okay, maybe I can take a little advantage out of that. And just a couple of laps later, I caught up Gino. I mean, we were actually really, really close, and I used that slipstream to get even closer, and now I'm giving him that signal, so I'm not overtaking. I don't want to overtake, so now we will go with that strategy. Okay, here he went a little bit too wide, but I don't think this really, this really made the situation worse. So we just got into this kind of rhythm. We need to push each other around the track. I'm not going to go for a move. I'm not going to try to push it at this point, because we got 7 more laps, so there is no point. We will just lose times, and the other guys in the midfield, they will catch us. And the guy who was actually in the pits, the leader, he will once again overtake us in the last lap, and he will get the win. So the best idea, or the best strategy now, is stay behind, wait a little bit, don't do anything, just give him a little tap from behind, like I said before, not on the side, because yeah, that's pretty much going to be a crash. But now look at this, I'm giving him a little tap, and we are moving away from the guy in P3. So as you can see, you can even save tires, you can do a lot of things which are always better in this situation. Of course, saving tires is one of them, probably the most important ones. So here you can see, once again, I'm giving them a little tap, I'm getting on 50% of the brakes, I'm not locking up the brakes, not killing those tires. So 8 laps, it's actually looking pretty good at this point. We got the pace, we got it. But then I decided, maybe I can do an undercut, maybe I am a little bit faster than him at this point, and maybe I can try to squeeze myself into that position and really get the win here. Unfortunately, we were just not quick enough to match this guy. And I know I paused it before. I think I said in the intro of this video, this guy and the Hungarian are like incredibly quick, and this guy, even without the slipstream, managed to keep his first place here. And now I got myself into this place, you know, actually fighting for P2. Is it gonna be P2, P3? And I'm going a little bit too wide, losing that grip. I don't think Gino pushed me wide. I look at the replay, he didn't, but as usual, Gran Turismo being Gran Turismo, I get myself half a second penalty. And now with the half a second penalty, this pretty much means game over. The car is super slippery because I went off the track, and there is no point of even fighting for this P2. And I just let Gino go, and at this point I was like, okay, I hope that Jose is not gonna catch me now. I really hope that I'm even gonna finish on the podium. The car, once again, if you go wide, becomes undrivable, and in the end I was quite lucky that it was eventually P3. So yeah, I tried to do a little different strategy. We were pushing each other along this, I mean, pretty much all the way through, and now it was time. Now it was time. But look at this lobby, everyone is so quick and so competitive. So we just started this race, and this was maybe one of the best races that I've had. I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't super exciting. It wasn't something that, you know, every single corner was an overtaking spot. I was overtaking the cars all over the place. It wasn't like that. It was more like I got into a steady pace. I got into that rhythm. I really felt the flow of the car and really felt the flow of the track. And the guy in front of me was actually representing Hungary in the Virtual Olympic Series, and he finished in P8. So I know this guy is quick, and I know this guy knows his track, because this track was a qualifying event for the Olympic Virtual Series. So he is really quick, but on top of that, I got the slipstream. You know, I can actually do something around the track. I can eventually do something and maybe even stay with him for the majority of this race. So I was keeping in, let's say, half a second to about 4/10 always. In the middle section, he always was slightly quicker than me, and we had a couple of races before this one. Not a couple, we actually had like 3-4 races on Monday, and now on Wednesday we even had like 3 to 4, maybe even 5 races in a row together in the same lobby. So I kind of know what this guy likes, what is his specialty. The middle section, especially this long right-hander, is one of his, you know, one of the, I'm not really sure how to explain, but he was always incredibly quick there. But somehow I got really close to him, and the goal was now to stay here and to eventually attack in the later stages of the race. So I didn't really think that I was going to be so quick or so close the whole time, that it was like actually always like 2 to 3 tenths, maybe after half a second after the middle section, because he was really quick here, and especially this corner and now this section, like incredibly quick. I couldn't match up his pace here. I mean, I had the provisional fastest sector or fastest lap time, but now as we got onto the straight, once again, I didn't really want to go for the move, but he was always going defensive. I actually wanted to give him a little tap so we can get away from the rest of the field, but somehow I even got a provisional P1. He went slightly too wide, but it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough to squeeze myself into that place. On the inside of that corner, you don't really have a chance. I mean, there is absolutely no chance you're gonna get on the outside of this corner. You're kind of on the inside, but then on the outside, so yeah, there was no point of fighting that one. But I was in this race. I was actually really fighting this one through. I mean, I'd done a couple of races before this one, as I said before. We were always like really close, but he always kind of managed to squeeze at least at, like, say, a tenth and a half or maybe even 2 tenths per lap. I know it's not much, but it's, you know, it's that little that it's giving him that advantage, so he can just pull away from all of us and, you know, just take the lead and, you know, eventually stay in the lead for the majority of the race, and in the end win the race. So once again on the straight, I mean, very surprising, I caught up to him and I was like, okay, this is going somewhere. I mean, I got the pace eventually. I mean, I can see that I got pace to follow him in the middle section especially, and then those two really long straights are giving me the chance to, you know, be close, maybe even go for a move. My intention really wasn't like that. I really wasn't trying to go for a move. I mean, he was always moving to the inside, just defending his place. And I do understand why he was doing that. I mean, once again, onto the straight, and you can see, I mean, he's moving to the left. I had no intention of doing it. I just wanted to give him a little push, but, you know, it's kind of good. It feels like, okay, we're racing now. We're actually onto something. Once again, I'll repeat myself as many times as I can, but, you know, staying behind this guy all the time is just like, okay, I really feel the flow. I know what's going around the track, and once again into lap number 5. But now I just try to follow him, and you know, kind of, you know what? If he's always defending, I'm gonna try to do it. I'm gonna try to go on the outside, and then maybe do a little cutback. But he closed the door. I mean, very, very smart. I mean, I'm not gonna say it. I done this a couple of times already. You know, you can call it park it on the apex and just pretty much stop your opponent from doing it. Yeah. From making a move. There is really nothing much that he can do there, except for maybe push you off the track, but that wasn't really an option. So here, as we're going into lap 7, finally I gave him a little push because I realized there was no point. I mean, there was no point of fighting. We got 5 laps to go. The guys behind are getting really close, or they're not getting close. They're always there, but they're getting a little bit closer lap by lap. So it was maybe a second, now it's 4, 3, 4, 5 tenths. It depends on the corner. But then I realized, okay, if you start fighting like that, it's not gonna be good for us. It's definitely gonna compromise our own results. And here, I mean, P9, we're actually into lap 9. I'm into P2. And, you know, it was a little bit far behind. I mean, I just fell behind. He had better tires. He was really pushing at this point. And I realized that, you know, I just need to stay with him. I just need to stay as much as I can, keep the tires alive, because I know he's better on tires. I know he's got the pace, and I know eventually, you know, something needs to happen. I need that one. I really need that little mistake from him. And in the end, what happened wasn't a little mistake. Look at this. I think it was second gear. I watched the replay. Second gear, he put the power down, tries to kind of save it in third gear, but it really didn't work. And somehow I'm leading this race. I'm leading this super incredibly competitive top split in Daily Race C. And yeah, I just decided once again to pit early. Why am I pitting early? Because I can see the guys behind. He was in that slipstream range, so by the end of the straight he could have attacked me. So he could have actually went for that move, but now I'm under threat from the guy behind, so from the Hungarian. He's going on the outside. I'm not giving him that much space. Acceleration was much quicker. I got under the curb and I kind of squeezed myself in this position. So he's really close. I mean, I didn't think this was gonna be like driving through the park and just minding my own business and bringing it home. This really needs to be a super defensive drive, and I really need to focus on how to do it, what to do it, and you know, what works, what doesn't work, and of course avoid mistakes. But as you probably noticed already, it's easy to make a mistake. I mean, it's, you know, keeping this pace for around 12 laps and doing that for about 3 hours isn't really easy. So you need to really focus on what you're doing, unless you of course want to make a mistake, but no one really wants to make a mistake. But then, you know, last lap, this is pretty much the last chance to go for it, and then I just try to go defensive, but you know, Hungarian just tries to kind of dive down the inside. I think he just missed his braking point, and you know, I keep my P1. You know, at one point I lost it, but it was P1 and still P1, but they are still behind me. I can see already like 3 to 4 guys in about second and a half, which is incredible on such a, you know, it's such a long race. I mean, we can consider it a long one. It's 12 laps. It's not really long, about 20 minutes. But you can see these guys, they're really pushing like crazy. And I said to myself, you know, just bring it home. You're gonna defend it later. I kind of missed the apex round here. So if you miss the apex, you lose about a tenth and a half, maybe 2 tenths. But then, you know, I don't know what happened, but he just lost control. I actually watched the replay, and he was like a little bit off the track, but it was just about enough to get the track limits penalties. So something that I really don't understand in Gran Turismo kind of saved me here, which is you lose time. You actually lose time by making a mistake, and on top of that, you're given a half a second penalty. So is this something that we really need? Is it something that we really want? No, of course not. But this is again how the game works. And in this case, it actually, you know, it actually worked in my favor. I was the one that, you know, is winning, because I was winning by quite a margin in the end, just because he got that penalty. And you know, first win of the day in such a super competitive lobby, you know, really felt good. And it was kind of a decent finishing time in the end. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed in this one. You can always let me know what you think about this combination down in comments. And until the next time, bye.